Well, hi, my friends. Good morning. It's Wednesday, Hump Day. Um, I, keep getting messages on the diet thing and the Eunuch video I had. One gentleman was mentioning the fact that he was castrated at age 28, and the immense hot flashes and bone loss or bone density loss was very difficult for him. And he still has some same sex attraction. He, like all of us, we like to look at pretty things, that are appeasing, but he doesn't have any sexual feeling for the opposite sex, females. It's considered more asexual. So I had a gentleman way back when who was thinking about becoming a eunuch because he thought that that would help with his sexual appetites. And, I would, doing anything that drastic to your body, is going to affect you in some way. So, really do your homework before you do, please, please do your homework and really research and see several doctors and, your minister, your priest, whoever, just really, I am no expert. I'm just telling you biblically that the eunuch was considered back in biblical times. They were outcasts. They were desired. Okay, and to be one was desirable because you were employed by wealthy people. It was, considered to having you around was safe. Having you, being in guard of the harem was considered safe because you didn't have any sexual appetite. And this was perfect for homosexuals of ancient time. And believe me, the eunuch encompasses not only people who are castrated, but also born that way. And so if you look at some of my old, YouTube videos about this, I go into much more depth. But again, I just didn't, think modern times that that people would still be considering wanting to do that. So I was a little bit floored, by that concept, and the kinds of comments that I would get on YouTube. Was quite eye-opening for me individually. So anyway, I just please, again, please do your research. All right, so that, and then, so we'll get going with Swedenborg information here. I really do hope that this is helping you with your Bible study and looking at things more spiritually and celestially in your teaching and learning. Let's see what page am I on here. Going back up here a little bit, page 76. I know I stopped at 77, but I'm not sure if the video went too long. Okay, so our sense that we are life and our consequent belief that we are life rest on an illusion in an instrumental cause. The presence of its principal cause is only felt as something identical to itself. The Lord himself teaches that he is life in itself in John, as the Father has life in himself, so too he has granted the Son to have life in himself. John 5:26, and again in John 11:25 and 14:6. He teaches that he is life itself. Since life and love are one and the same, we can see From the first two sections above, it follows that the Lord, being life itself, is love itself. If this is to be intelligible, though, it is essential to realize that the Lord, being love in its very essence of divine love, is visible to angels in heaven as a sun. That warmth and light flow from that sun, that the outflowing warmth is essentially love, and the outflowing light essentially wisdom. And to the extent that angels are receptive of that spiritual warmth and spiritual light, they themselves are instances of love and wisdom, instances of love and wisdom not on their own but from the Lord. Spiritual warmth and spiritual light flow into the effect not only angels but also to us, precisely to the extent that we become receptive. Our receptivity develops in proportion to our love for the Lord and our love of our neighbor. That sun itself, or divine love, cannot use its warmth and light to create anyone directly from itself. If it did, the creature would be love in its essence, which is the Lord himself. It can, however, create people out of material substance so formed as to be receptive of its actual warmth and light. In the same way, the sun of our world cannot use its warmth and light to bring forth sprouts in the earth directly. Rather, the sun uses substances in the soil in which it can be present through its warmth and light to make plants grow. On the Lord's divine love being seen as the sun in spiritual world, with spiritual warmth and light flowing from it, giving angels their love and wisdom. Since you could read about that again in Heaven and Hell on 116 to 142. We are life receivers, not life. It follows that our conception from our parents is not the conception of life, but simply the conception of the first and purest forms that can accept life. These forms serve as a nucleus or beginning in the womb, to which are added step-by-step material, substance, and forms suited to their various patterns and levels to the reception of life. Divinity is not in space, given the divine omnipresence and presence with everyone in the world, with every angel in heaven, and with every spirit under heaven. There is no way a merely physical image can compass the thought that divinity or God is not in space. Only a spiritual image will suffice. Physical images are inadequate because they involve space. They are put together out of earthly things. And there is something spatial about absolutely every earthly thing that we see with our eyes. Everything that is large or small here involves space. Everything that is long or wide or high here involves space. In a word, every measurement, every shape, every form here involves space. This is why I said that merely physical image cannot compass the fact that divinity is not in space when the claim is made that it is everywhere. Still, we can grasp this with our earthly thinking if only we let in a little spiritual light. This requires that I first say something about spiritual concepts, the spiritual thinking that arises from them. Spiritual concepts have nothing to do with space. They have to do solely with the state being a arbitrute. Sorry. A-R-A-T-T, let me get this bigger. Attribute, sorry. I need my eyes checked. State being an attribute of love, life, wisdom, desires, and the delights they provide. In general, an attribute of what is good and true. A truly spiritual concept of these realities has nothing in common with space. It is higher and looks down on spatial concepts the way heaven looks down on earth. Okay, so let me try to read that again. So spiritual concepts have nothing to do with space. They have to do solely with the state being an attribute of love, life, wisdom, desires, and the delights they provide. In general, the attribute of what is good and true. A truly spiritual concept of these realities has nothing in common with space. Okay, so, however, since angels and spirits see with their eyes the way we do on earth, and since objects can be seen only in space, there does seem to be space in the spiritual world where angels and spirits are space like our earth. Still, it is not space, but an appearance of space. It is not fixed or an invariant like ours. It can be lengthened or shortened, changed or altered, since it cannot be defined by measurement. Here we cannot grasp it with an earthly concept, but only with a spiritual one. Spiritual concepts are no different when they apply to spatial distances than when they apply to distances of what is good and distances of what is true, which are agreements and likeness as to state. It stands to reason then that with merely earthly concepts we cannot grasp the fact that divinity is everywhere and still not in space. That the angels and spirits understand this quite clearly. This means that we too could understand if we could only let in a little spiritual light into our thinking. The reasons we can understand it is not our bodies that think, but our spirits. So it is not our physical side, but our spiritual side. The reason so many people do not grasp this is that they love what is earthly and therefore reluctant to lift their thinking above it to a spiritual light. People who are reluctant can think only spatially, even about God. And thinking spatially about God is thinking about the extended size of nature. The premise is necessary because without a knowledge and some sense that divinity is not in space, we cannot understand anything about the divine life that is love and wisdom, which are our present topic. This means that there can be little, if any, understanding of divine providence, omnipresence, omniscience, omnipotence, infinity, eternity, which are to be dealt with in a sequence. So I've stated that in the spiritual world, just as in the physical world, we can see space and therefore distances as well, but they are appearances dependent upon spiritual likeness of love and wisdom, or of what is good and true. This is why even the Lord is with angels everywhere in heaven. He still appears high overhead, looking like a sun. Further, since it is the acceptance of love and wisdom that causes likeness to him, if angels have a closer resemblance because of their appearance, their heavens appear to be closer to the Lord than those of the angels whose resemblance is more remote. This is why the heavens, there are 3 of them, are marked off from each other and are the communities of each heaven. It is also why the hells underneath them are further away in proportion to their rejection of love and wisdom. So I'm going to stop there. And I hope that you have a great hump day and slide into your weekend. I hope everything is going well with you and your families. My brother's having a hard time, so if you would keep him in prayer, my brother John, that way I would appreciate that, all my subscribers. He's still working, trying to get over the stroke that he had, and he saw doctors all day yesterday, and so yeah, if you just would mention him in prayer, I would be very grateful. So have a blessed day. Take care. Love you guys. Bye-bye.